Sahar, how are you?
I'm well, alhamdulillah. You go up and down. I had a down on the weekend, felt suddenly frustrated, but you
Yeah.
can only sit with what you feel and then you sort it out. But it was great because as soon as that was dealt with, new stuff emerged. So, thanks to you and to your encouragement, I might be starting a Unbox Your Spiritual Connection kind of for 28 days where you get
Yeah.
personalized meditations. It's just meditations to listen to, and it being Ramadan, although the meditations are not nothing to do with Ramadan, but it's quite timely, and then we have Easter, so it just made me think of establishing that connection with.
Yeah.
And the meditations are really inspired from spirit. I never struggle for them, they just come, and then I write them, and then I use them when I teach, and then I thought, okay, I'll put together and maybe some new ones for next month.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Do you think this is it? Shall we start? Welcome to live Q&A, unboxing homestay. So I want you to think, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming in. I want to thank you for taking up the course because it makes me feel useful and I can do my bit in this uncertain times. So I appreciate that. This is about you today. I would like to know, perhaps we can start with feedback, what you felt, what is homestay unboxing for you, what kind of emotions or things are coming up. And of course, if you have any questions about anything, I'll be very happy to help as much as I can. So who's going to unbox first? I want to see some hands. I can see Yara thinking and hesitating, and I see Maya thinking, oh my God, am I going to make an idiot out of myself?
I'll go first. All right. So Sahar, I think has been very empowering. I've done my NLP course and my 6 seconds emotional intelligence, and it's very much aligned. So even though it wasn't 100% new, it was really nice the way it was formulated. I love the pendulum the most. I think that's the visual I have in my head all the time.
Which one?
The pendulum and that, your alignment and that what is an acceptable flow and then what's out. I've actually got questions around that. So I love that part, and I keep visualizing that when I feel like I'm, the flow of energy is not in the right direction. So I see that middle line, the red line going straight up. I also love your pyramid. We were actually talking it today. We're actually using your course now in our terminology in our meeting. So we have a chat room at 2:30, and we were talking about how we can use the pyramid with a customer because her perspective is very limited. She needs to get to the top so she can have a wider perspective.
And it's, it's to do with perception, and it's to do with perspective. And I'm born in Cairo. I'm Palestinian, born in Cairo, but I was always fascinated by ancient Egypt. And I remember I went to Cairo from Kuwait. We lived in Kuwait. And there was nothing in Kuwait at the time. So my parents sent me on my own on a plane to Cairo to get my tonsils out. And I remember my grandma took me to the pyramids, and it just stunned me. They're so huge. And when you stand at the bottom of the pyramid, it's so big, you can only see one stone. And that kind of thing, registered. And then she took me, I went in, can you imagine? And then she took me around in a taxi. And even then I was thinking, like, this is interesting. Everything is changing as you go around with the taxi. You can see the other pyramids, you can see the background. And then many years later, when I moved from Kuwait to London, I practically lived at the British Museum. I wanted to find out everything about ancient Egypt. And then I read somewhere that it was very lush in Al-Giza. And of course, they dragged the stones along the river, which was very close to the pyramids. But when you go there, there's nothing. It's a desert.
No river. Yeah.
So that kind of image stuck. And I went back when I was 14, and we took, the camels, and we went around. I don't know if you can still do that now. And we met one of the guides who was a Guinness, world. He broke the Guinness World Record for climbing up and down the pyramid in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And we went 1/3 up. I'm slightly afraid of heights, but we did 1/3. And then I wondered what it would be like to sit at the top of the pyramid. I mean, can you imagine the perspective, the view?
Yeah.
So, many years later, when you have to explain an idea, your mind kind of puts things together and like connects the dots. And it came up, and I'm glad, because it's a very easy way to explain, about perspective, that you only see this much. But when you work on your self-awareness and development, you really do develop a bird's eye view of things. And the other thing that happened is during the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait, we were, of course, stuck there. There wasn't lockdown, but it was lockdown. But, this is a new word. And how do you deal with that? And I started looking up and imagining looking down on Earth. And, if we were a few latitudes away, our lives would be completely different. So that started giving me, a different perspective. And I think it's so important, because I realized a lot of intelligent women in the corporate world, you can't help but defend yourself. You want to prove I'm doing it, I'm right. But I realized what comes with that is also stiffness, a certain degree of rigidity, because you feel you have to defend, who I am, what I do, my position. And that can sometimes make us inflexible. So it's very important to stay open and not to think that your views are the truth. It may be personal truth, but it's not really the relevant truth or the absolute truth. So when we are flexible, we actually empower ourselves, because we become more resilient. And the more you expand your perspective, somehow, can I say it makes you more intelligent, because you have different point of views. You can see the whole picture. You can think up better solutions, and so on. So why stick to what we know when literally our brains will improve by thinking and seeing things in a different way?
Yeah. Because it's going from that from that self-awareness to social awareness. It's like moving to that broader perspective of what else is happening in the world and in life.
It applies really to everything. I did a consultancy a year or two ago to a private museum here in Dubai, marketing consultancy and branding. And it was a private museum for an ex-federal minister. And then he said, if you can make me a one-page proposal, then I'll consider it. And I thought, fine. And I did. And you know what I based it on? The content and the container. I mean, the place was so amazing. It was one of those old private, old houses, I should say. It's not even a villa, that was turned into a museum. And his was the first museum to open. And the place, the container, was so magical. You just wanted to sit in that courtyard. So that was my proposal to him, based on the yin and yang, the content and the container. You have to get the container right, and then the right people, the content will come. So we created both. I completely redid the courtyard. It became so welcoming that people really wanted to come in. And then we created content for the children who are the visitors, games, stories, treasures to look for in the museum. And his intake went up by 30%, during that short time that we had this consultancy together. So I think once the principles go in, this is the reason I'm mentioning it, you will find as business people ways of expressing that kind of, I don't know if I want to call it spiritual outlook. It will come into different things. You can use it at home, you can use it in business. It becomes almost like a principle that helps you to find solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other thing I would like to comment on, if I may, is what you mentioned, Michelle, about the pendulum. Years ago, I read a very good book. It's a gem of a book. I have a list, categories for books, and it's a gem because it's such a tiny little book, 100 pages, but really changed my life. So I have like about 5 or 6 books like that. But this book was called How to Love and Be Loved, and it's by a psychologist called Paul Hoke. It's a very old book, but if you ever find it, get it. And he mentioned, so long as you are reasonably happy. And I like that. He didn't say so long as you're perfectly happy and every need is fulfilled. And I started thinking, what is reasonable? And then it struck me about the range, And of course, I'm Muslim, of Muslim parents. So there's that Islamic kind of thing in the back of my mind. I say Muslim. But the first prayer in Islam, which is similar actually to any other prayers, is about maintaining your path, again, between a reasonable range. And somehow, my brain tied the two together. And I thought it's not about perfection, because life has to kind of move. Otherwise, you won't get the pulse that gets you to move forward in life. I think most of our worries come from thinking, I'm not perfect. I'm not the perfect whatever employee. I'm not the perfect leader. I'm not the perfect mother, wife, however you identify with yourself. So I wanted to release this idea of perfection. So long as you are reasonably functional, without downtime, with things flowing, then really we should be grateful for that alignment within an acceptable range, if you like. So try and see it as a range, a bandwidth, rather than as a straight line that if we waver slightly away from it, then we are doomed. It really isn't.
How do we define what that bandwidth is? Is that a personal boundary that we place on ourselves, or how do we know the flexibility?
So long as you don't have downtime, you're not distressed, you're not dysfunctional, you're not self-loathing, you're not over-analyzing. So when we're away from the range, we do experience a degree of dysfunctionality. The over-analysis, the tub of ice cream, the long phone calls to girlfriends, why? But these are all means that we do to try and find a resolution. But I think if we start the other way around, if we develop the right perspective, then we'll see things in a different way. So anything extreme would take you out of alignment, which means you will face blockages, things will go very slow, you probably won't feel inspired, like nothing is coming in, I can't do anything. Any of those things at any point in time means that one of the 4 dimensions of change is out of alignment. But if you're in the happy range, like yesterday, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to yesterday's Q&A.
No, I'm behind.
We spoke about this, and I said, sometimes it could be a small thing, not a big thing, but the small thing will throw you out of alignment. Like this weekend, I love Easter. It probably reminded me of my husband, my late husband. A series of things happened, and then suddenly, I was down, and then I tried to push myself and do this and do another video. I really could not. So I just sat with those feelings. It wasn't a big way out of balance, but it nearly paralyzed me. And I sat with it, and I sat with it for 2 days. And then I realized what it is. I unboxed it, and I realized I was really being defiant. Why am I forced to stay at home? And I realized I was really stir crazy. I just wanted to go for a walk, around the house, in the afternoon or in the evening, which you can't do. And it was so different from homestay, from social distancing. Lockdown is lockdown. And I didn't realize that this was creeping up on me. And then I started exploring, not thinking, but going to the heart and saying, okay, why do I feel heavy? Why do I feel down? And then I realized it is because I'm carrying so many emotions that I kind of put in the freezer because I want to move forward. And this brought up a lot of memories of being stuck in Kuwait, losing my father, losing my mother, losing my brother. Whoa, the whole thing, came up like within a few hours. But it was really great because if it wasn't for homestay, I wouldn't have taken that bag out of the freezer. So even now, even 30 years later, we will experience stuff that we need to thaw out and really take out of the freezer, because the minute you do that, the minute you open up for a new inspiration, for new ideas, for creativity. And this is when I came up with the other course, for example. I'm mentioning it as an example. So it could be something small, 20%, but actually it makes 80% difference in your life. So don't ignore the little stuff, start with the little stuff, and then you will find bigger stuff is a lot easier to unbox.
I find because you try so hard to keep pushing yourself, to keep going. Look at a group of beautiful women here, women especially, they have so much on their plate, and the expectation from women is so high, and we all want to live up to all these expectations. Taking your foot off the pedal, God forbid, you feel that you're going to start to decelerate, letting anyone down or letting anyone see that you're not 100% or really not in the mood to cook for 7 people or the other person you are living with. These are all failures that as women we take on board as big massive issues. So because you push and push and you keep propping yourself up, when you finally get that downtime, as you called it, it's practically a crash.
Yeah, it is.
No matter how short-lived it is, I think the crash is still.
But you mentioned a very good point. I want to thank you for that. Where does that expectation come from? Yeah, who places it on us?
We do. Yeah.
You know, nobody says, you know, this is the 100% bar, you know, but we invite it, we take it on board. And once you do, you're transmitting this. And of course, you're telling the world, judge me by my own standards. And of course they do, because that's what you're broadcasting. I watched an interview with someone who interviewed me later, but one of the women she interviewed, it's a platform called Strong. And it's about women who went through a rough time, sharing their experience to help the youth. So anyway, and then I watched all her interviews before going on her show. And I remember her asking one of the women, and she says, oh, I wear different hats. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And my thing is, you should wear the same hat all the time. It's you. That's what we're looking for. Your authentic identity. You're not a different person because you're at home. You're not a different person because you're a mother or a wife. And especially here in the Middle East or Eastern culture, who says that it's the woman or the mother or the wife who should cook every day? You know,
otherwise you order out every day. You cook if you want to eat well.
Yes, exactly.
Really?
You can ask me.
I know my partner does not want me in the kitchen all the time. I know that for a fact. But then it's what he can't even scramble eggs. So
I second that, Maya. I second what Maya saying.
You can take turns. I know when I first got married, and my mom was a very good housewife, very good cook. I'm not. I focus more on my career and so on. And I thought, oh my God, you know, I'm responsible for another human being. And we never discussed, have never discussed who's going to make dinner. Never. Or what
because he's English.
Because he's English, but because he's an evolved man. It's, you know, nothing to do. My father was
an old Englishman.
So it's not always the case, not because he's English. My dad is English.
My father was an Arab man. He was a very traditional man. He was born in 1914. And yet there was nothing traditional about the way he behaved with my mom or at home. He was an amazing cook. My mom came from a very spoiled background. She didn't know how to cook. The first 3 months they ate, you know, takeouts. And then he said, here's the kitchen. And he showed her slowly, and they enjoyed this activity doing it together. And until the day he died, he did all the main meals, all the main occasions. You know, I think a man is more of a man when he has the courage to go into the kitchen and create something. Who says men cannot create? You know, I grew up in a non-gender specific way. We did not see men as men, women as women. We saw them as people. But I'm telling you, let me finish, please. I'm telling you, the more intelligent, the more high up the ladder, you put that identity on yourselves, you put that pressure, and you place that expectation upon you, which eventually is your downfall. And one thing, even though because you are women, I'm saying this, you need to ask for help. Just because you are a woman, it doesn't mean you're expected to sort it all out. Because how else are you gonna connect with someone on a deeper level if you don't share what if you don't ask for what you need?
Look, we are women, we are human, and we want to be loved. And guess what? The cooking bit, Maya, is an easy win. You cook, you're loved, you're appreciated, you're needed, you're wanted.
Absolutely.
You know?
And then you show them how bad you feel when you're actually ordering out, like, I'm so sorry. I'll be better tomorrow. Absolutely.
I can't believe you're speaking like that in 2020. I'm not going to talk about relationships, but we can, if you want, we can set up a live Q&A outside this course. Because relationships, especially marriage, committed relationships, are the most important thing. Do you know why? Because every relationship with the other is about you. It's about the self. It's not about the other. So whatever you negotiate, you know, I want him to love me, I'll cook for him. Okay, but maybe you can bond in a deeper way, in a different way. But you've never tried because you've assumed that expectation, and you helped enforce that expectation out of you. So I'm just saying, open up and try and achieve what you want, but in a different way that is good for both of you, which makes the relationship a lot deeper, actually. So through love, you learn a lot of things about yourself, and you learn what you tolerate. What is the price of me cooking every day and going crazy? You know, just so that he can be in awe of me. Is it worth it? If nothing is broken, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you're suffering, that's what I'm saying. This is when you need to look into, what is it that I need to unbox? Is it my thoughts? Is it my feelings? You know, my belief system? Is it the action that I'm taking? Because sometimes you might be good all the way through, except for the action, you know? So just think about it. So going back to, what do we address? You address whatever area that you feel you're unbalanced in. Like the cooking for Maya or Siba, I don't know. But you know,
I made him make his own sandwich today.
He can make his own sandwich 3-4 days a week. Why not only today? I mean, what is he doing?
He made the food on Friday.
You know, it's shared responsibility. Bringing up children is a shared responsibility, especially during this time, you know. I'm even hesitating to say that, but you know, especially in this time.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sahar, but I think, I mean, this shared responsibility about bringing up a family and all of this is a totally different subject that,
yes,
you know, you can go round and round and round and what's right and what's wrong and what works and what doesn't work and different.
It's very simple for me, Dana. It's very simple for me. The rule is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're talking about fixing things that are affecting you, and in turn the other. So it's not an opinion about a certain culture or whatever. It's about exploring, does the dynamic that I have presently, is it serving me? Am I thriving? Do I feel better for being married and waking up to this man and having 3 children with him? Or is it all coming on top of my head? If it is, then it's time to unbox. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
And read the book. There are 2 books, if you're married, you should read. The first is How to Love and Be Loved by Paul Hope. And the other one is called Passionate Marriage by David Schnarch. Absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. You know, I read them over and over and over and over again, because it does give you food for thought, and they're very light books. They're very humorous. It's nothing heavy. You know, in fact, I was laughing all the time I was reading Passionate Marriage that my husband picked it up because he was curious. So it's good. Sometimes people follow you by example.
Yeah, true. I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, we're wavering off from the modules. Any questions about other elements within what you've listened and watched so far? Before we get cut off, I think we're okay for 40 minutes.
I just wanted to say that I really like the life is not perfection, like your standards shouldn't be perfection. And I once did this exercise that, I mean, it kind of modeled the yin and yang diagram. It was like a pinwheel, and you picked all of your priorities and you rated them from 1 to 10. And then basically, God, my kids are coming down, they're so loud. You rated them from 1 to 10, and then you can see like what distance you can feasibly climb within each quadrant, rather than just saying everything has to be perfect, the whole wheel has to be full, and like, you know, the next day or something like that.
It's really not about perfection. I'm looking for my drawing. Okay, hold on, I'll make one very quickly. It's about seeing something which I really love and I'm very good at. I mean, naturally, I always seek a tangible way of understanding the intangible. So when you don't know how, that's not a very good pen. I had a really good pen that somebody must have borrowed. When you see the intangible, what you cannot express in a tangible way, it really hits you. And then once the message goes in, you will inevitably take the action. So it's not about climbing up. Like, let's say, I personally called it the web of life, because when I drew it, I didn't know how to make a circle, so I made a web. And I like webs because webs connect you. You know, it's about the spider's web. And then you can go out and you can include other things. And I sectioned it, you know, to 6, 7, 8 areas because I think our lives are rich. So you can start with whatever, spiritual, love, money, career.
Not reading enough was a big thing for me at the time, so that was a quadrant as well. Like it was like a 2 or something.
Hobbies. Yeah. Okay, physical fitness, maybe, whatever. Yeah. So you don't know, and usually this is the first, you know, where I start with a client. So 0 is the center. I'm unhappy. I'm unsatisfied. And outside is like, whoa, I'm really happy. I mean, it's abstract. And then you put X where you think you are, you know, like I do yoga, I'm amazing, I'm fit, I'm ideal work, but you know, my money, I can't handle it, but I like to socialize. So whatever, you put your X's. And then when you connect the dots, the magic happens. Because you see this. Can you see that? The shape? So I'll shade it. So this is the shape of my life. It looks like an amoeba. It's not a circle, it's not a hexagram, it's nothing. And that makes me look and say, oh my God, I place too much emphasis on love, for example. So if I bring love down, then maybe I can put it and bring physical fitness up or personal life up, or, you know, there's only, like, we have a certain bandwidth, if you like, your life energy. There's only so much you can do in 24 hours. So if you're not aware of the flow and where is it going and how you're apportioning your time or your effort, you will always feel deficient. You will always feel lacking. You'll start self-loathing, you know, why am I getting it right, and so on. So that tells you immediately, you know, that I have 3 areas to bring up because these are really low. And then you understand in an abstract way, your brain will understand. But once you see the shape like that, what are you doing? You're linking your 3 brains together. You're getting over the fear. You're doing it in a creative, emotional way. I use lots of colors and things like that just to make it, you know, nicer for me to uncover a lot of things. And then your brain registers. So without you lecturing yourself, this image will stay with you. Okay, we have 10 minutes left and then Zoom is gonna cut us off. So, and that's my point. It's not about perfection, Shali. It's not about, ooh, I have to yet reach number 10. I mean, it could be 5. It could be 1 out of 5. It doesn't have to be 10. But 10 amplifies what you need to work on. And it's just realizing, okay, if I'm spending too much time fussing over the children, for example, or too much time at work, then I won't have time for these other things. It's physically impossible. So you need to rechannel, you know, like when you invest in a portfolio, you need to rechannel how much you're investing in the different areas, and then you'll get an overall good performance that you are reasonably happy and joyful about. Does that make sense? I read somewhere that the Sufis, the Persians, when they used to weave the carpets, they always made a mistake on purpose to express that there is no perfection and that only the creator is perfect. And believe me, when I was younger, I looked everywhere for all the rugs we had at home. I wanted to see that imperfection. And I found it last week looking at one of the rugs we have. I'll send you a picture. And it's just amazing. And that made me, you know, that brought that metaphor home. It's true. They do it on purpose because no matter how perfect, you know, your home is, your meal is, you as a person, there will always be flow because that is part of our makeup. There has to be a flow, otherwise there's nothing to improve. And if there's nothing to improve, then there's nothing to evolve into. So what's the point? You know, our purpose is really to be the best version of ourselves, whatever that is. You know, like people ask me often, have I missed my destiny? You can't. Have I missed my life purpose? Your life purpose is the same as, you know, the 8 billion people on the planet. It's just to be the better version of yourself. If everybody evolves in that way without putting the pressure, then the whole process will be very enjoyable. Does that make sense?
Sahar, do you want to move to an unlimited time call? We have Zoom if you want.
You can if you need to. Absolutely, I don't mind when they cut us off.
It's up for you.
It's up to you guys because I just want to, you know, support everyone and be here. And I would like for you to be more engaged. Tell me things, not just listen. Rivka, you're very, very quiet. I'm going to pick on you. What
Actually, yesterday I had the same question as Shali, so.
About perfection?
No, the wheel that you designed.
This is like a tool, you know, it's not homework. I don't want you to obsess. It's just a tool to uncover something about you. Because, you know, Unbox stands for uncovering your strengths and weaknesses, neutralizing drama or trauma or chaos, and then, you know, building the next platform, overcoming obstacles, and then figuring out what is your X factor. So it's just a, you know, synonym for really getting back on track. So don't obsess about the tools. Yeah, this is something that intelligent, logical people do. They find something and they latch on it, which is why on purpose, I did not do the videos as a presentation, which I learned from a friend of mine about 2 years ago, an amazing brain. And he said he stopped using charts and things because then people expect things in a certain way to be done in a certain way. And he's into artificial intelligence. And he realized you need to free the mind. So even when he gives speeches, and he's an international speaker, he doesn't use anything. He lets people use their imagination. But, you know, I'm taking you through the process slowly. So I'm giving you what you're expecting, a little bit of what you're expecting, but really open up. So it's not the tool. The tool is just an instrument to help you find out, you know, I don't know where I'm going wrong. Well, if you do this, and if you do the balance, you know, then you will know what is my happy medium. Personally, to me, what that meant is as soon as I'm off track, I realize, so if I'm in the wrong, if I'm about to lose my temper on someone, believe me, whoop, I come back and I say, I'm sorry, it's my mistake. I'm in a bad mood, or I misunderstood. And before, like 20, 30 years ago, you would have killed me and you would not have gotten an apology out of me. You know, I was so proud. But now I come back, I get over it, I apologize, and then the whole thing moves forward, you know, instead of spending this emotional time, which is very draining on any of us. Does that help? So don't worry about the tools. The important thing is connecting with what's happening with your body, with your emotions, with your mind, your thinking process. And if you got these three in alignment, you're most likely to make the right action, which means you will maintain yourself in alignment. Does that help?
I have a question.
And that's the pyramid and the pendulum. You see how it all ties together? So the hardest work is probably the foundation, and then, you know, it becomes a lot easier. Debra Saba.
Okay, my question is about control.
Yes, I was going to say, I see a box, a square over your head, which is yes, yeah. It can be structure. Okay. It can be structure. But as I keep saying, it's okay to be structured, but it's also okay to unravel that structure because you're going to put it back in a different way. So when we lose control, then we really kind of can gauge which way the flow is going, and then you can surf the wave and get to the shore safely. So it doesn't mean if you have structure, you're going to get there. Because structure is very logical. And logic is set up in a way like a brick over the other one. I know because I'm a civil engineer. If you take one brick, the whole thing will fall down. So
sorry, I missed Deborah's question. What was your
question? It's about structure.
No. My question it's about related to control, but the question is, I know we don't have control about external things. We all know about this, but how we can train our mind to not to avoid to get upset about external things.
You can't stop yourself from getting upset. Yeah, again, this is a control issue. I'm just listening to the words you're using and I'm responding to what I'm feeling. Again, it implies success and failure. It's not. It's about observation. The first thing I said in those videos is observe yourself lovingly without making judgment, because we cannot control anything. So when you observe yourself, that you're losing your temper, that you are reacting to something, this is what you're talking about, right? That you're getting too upset about it. Who are you observing? Yourself. You cannot stop yourself from feeling what you're feeling. That's why you exist. Otherwise, you'll be dead. You'll feel nothing. So as human beings, the way we evolve is through feeling the anger, the love, the hurt, the sadness. It goes in. The feelings, remember, it's the second dimension of change. The feeling bases or forms our belief system. So what you feel, you'll end up thinking, and what you think will enforce what you feel, and so on. So feelings, emotions, and thinking is very interlinked. So you can't control that. You can't control your mind. Your mind is meant to think all the time. you can only hone that energy and surf it, you know, but you can't control the wave of the ocean or whatever, you know, the flow of water or the river. You can know how to surf it, you know, how to be in a boat and flow, you know, with the flow, but you can't control that energy. It's too much vital energy. You're made of consciousness, the same material the stars are made from, the whole universe is. How can you control that? All that your body is for as a machine to drive that, not to control it, but to manage it. Yeah. Good questions tonight. Does that make sense the way I'm answering them? Maybe you're not the answer that you expect, but again, we need to expand and see things in a different way. Dismantling the structure allows you to build a new structure in a new way.